In this video, we're going to cover how to set up a Medicare case and a Medicare policy. So you can do so by pulling up the patient's name by searching in the search box or clicking on their name on the calendar, cases, create new case, and then under type, you're going to select Medicare. Now, keep in mind, you only want to select the Medicare case type if the insurance is the U.S. government issued Medicare. That's the only time you want to select Medicare. If the patient has a Medicare replacement policy, then just select insurance. But the standard government issued Medicare is when you want to set up Medicare as the type. And I'll show you the reason in a minute. Case name is Medicare. And again, you can edit this if you would like to. And then we're going to have it set to bill normally. Save changes. Now again, if this is the current policy that the patient will be using, I'm going to set it as default. Click into the case. Treatment DX, here you can add chief complaints, care notes, and diagnosis codes. To add a diagnosis code, just click into the search box. Either search the name or the number of the DX code. The start date will always default to the current date. So if you need to backdate, just click on the date and select the date from the date picker. Just a quick tip, if you change the date on the first DX code that you enter, any subsequent DX code that you add into the case will pull that start date. So that's a helpful tip instead of having to go in and edit each start date. Save changes. Insurance/coverage. Here we're going to add the Medicare policy information. So add new insurance/coverage. Here I'm going to pick the third-party payer that I have for Medicare. If this is the primary policy, I'm going to select primary. Now with Medicare patients, a lot of times they do have a secondary policy. So I will show you the setup of that in a second. Coverage start and end date is the policy coverage dates of that policy for that patient. ID number, this will come from the patient's Medicare card. So I'm just going to make up some information here. Now you will see that as compared to the insurance case, the group identifier is hard-coded as none. You cannot change this. You cannot edit it because the government-issued Medicare requires that the group identifier, box 11, appear as none in all caps. So that is one reason why we have Medicare as its own separate case, to help you with this, because a lot of times offices don't know this or don't remember to do this, and this is times that your claims will get rejected and then you have to fix everything and rebill. So this is why we have Medicare as a separate case to help you with this. Now if you have plan identifier prior auth, you can put that here. Notes, if the patient has a Medicare copay, you can add that here, as well as max visits. This is another reason why we set Medicare as its own case type. Because for Medicare, a lot of times, I cannot say for sure, but a lot of times you do have to have box 14 and 15 and their qualifiers put in the information so that it populates on the claim. If your claims do not have these boxes filled out, most of the time it will get rejected by Medicare. So the reason why we have Medicare as its own case so that we show you a standard field. That would explain this box up here. When you click Show Non-Standard Field, it shows and hides fields that aren't really related to that specific case. So box 14 is going to be your onset or current symptoms of illness. The qualifier is 431. So you're going to put the date that coincides with this situation, the onset of current symptoms or illness. So I'll say, just making updates here. Now box 15, for Medicare, you're going to click initial treatment date. Qualifier 439 is for a PI workman's comp. So 454 is initial treatment date, which is a qualifier that Medicare does recognize and require. So I am going to put in box 15 the date that that patient first came into our office for treatment. If you need to put anything in box 19, you can do so. Accepted assignment always defaults to yes, but you can change it. Now down here at the bottom, I have referring provider. I have this third-party payer set up in my office that it requires third-party payer. That's why you see this here. If you do not have the payer set up to require third-party payer, then this is not a required field. But in this option, I am going to select the doctor of my office. That would be the referring provider. I'm going to hit save. Now in this situation, let's say this patient, they have the government issued Medicare, but they also have a secondary policy. They have a secondary coverage. I want to go ahead and add that as well because most of the time, Medicare will automatically forward the policies to secondary and you may get payments from secondary. In order to post that payment from the secondary, you have to have the policy in here. So I'm going to click add new insurance coverage. Let's say the secondary is Aetna. And in the priority, I'm going to use the drop-down menu to select secondary. Then I'm going to put in the information as well here. Now you will notice the group identifier as compared to the primary policy. This can be edited. So if the patient has a secondary insurance and they have their card, you will need to enter the group identifier from the card. So let's say they did have a group identifier on the card. And again, just fill out all the appropriate information. Just like you did on the primary, you want to fill out the same box, 14, 15, and qualifiers. So I'm going to do that now. And now I can see with this patient, I have my primary policy, which is Medicare, and my secondary policy, which is covered by Aetna, and both effective and expiration dates are the calendar year of 2022, so January 1st to December 31st. We're also going to go in and set my default charges. I'm going to put my Medicare adjustment as my default. And then settings, you can rename the case type if you want to. You want to keep billing to bill normally. You don't really want to suspend billing because you want the bills to go out. And you always want to keep the case type as Medicare and then save. And now you're ready to add charges and bill out this Medicare patient.